All right, y'all. Travers time here again. What can we say here? Five horses, mile and a quarter, $1.3 million purse. I don't know why they couldn't get more horses into this, but we've only got five, and everyone knows sovereignty is in this one. We don't have everyone's favorite horse journalism, but those journalism even given the respect to sovereignty that's deserved. So as we move into this Travers here, we obviously had a lot of horses ducking um, sovereignty. Like I like to call them ducks. Boxing as well, call them ducks. Um, so one duck that I'd like to mention that I was really disappointed in is Tip Top Thomas. Now, Tip Top Thomas won the Indiana Derby in a nice fashion, I would say. Nice time. I know people like to throw out the times at smaller tracks. They've always got an excuse as to why the time is too fast or too slow or whatever. It's never the horse, it's always the track. At any rate, he ran a nice race there. I thought they were going to run him in the Travers here, trained by Todd Pletcher, ridden by Johnny V. He's got everything you need to win at Saratoga, especially trying to get an upset in the graveyard of champions. But they decided not to do that. They ran him in the Smarty Jones. Now, he came away with a nice, good win in the Smarty Jones there. He pretty much wired that one. I think he might have been second for maybe the first furlong or so, but he dominated that field. Looks like they're pointing him towards the Pennsylvania Derby. Um, Maybe we'll see him in the Breeders' Cup if he gets there. I think they mismanaged it. I think they really missed their chance to get a big payout going up against a 2-5 Sovereignty, who may go off even lower than that. It's quite possible he goes all the way down to 1-9. But Tip Top Thomas, look for him in the Pennsylvania Derby. Pletcher Velasquez. Horse it has some, I don't have his breeding right here in front of me. He's got some good breeding. He's got some stealth breeding too. You got to go back 3 generations to see what he's got kicking in there. But enough about Tip Top Thomas. We're going to see him in the future, I'm sure, provided he stays healthy, of course. Um, Now let's get into these 5 horses here. First off is the horse that a lot of other people want to talk about, uh, Magnitude. There is a lot to talk about with this horse out of Not This Time. His grandfathers are Giants Causeway and Bernardini. So you got that. He's a cousin of Sovereignty through that Bernardini link. So, Magnitude, 8 lifetime starts, 4 wins, 1 second place. Didn't always run up front. He likes to run up front. He's got all of his wins running up front, going gate to wire. Uh, they didn't always do that, though. His second race, he got a win, broke the maiden, getting a win. But then he came back in the Gun Runner, in the LeCompte, uh, second in that Gun Runner, sixth in the LeCompte, but he didn't take the lead. They tried to rate him there. I could probably, and maybe I'll do it one of these days, just talk for an hour about winning a horse race up front, and horses that like to do it, and how to give them what they need. That is what this horse got out of Ben Curtis. Now they've changed the jockeys up. Back to what's going on here. Ben Curtis got back onto him, or got on him. Stephen Asmussen, the trainer, put him on there. I guess they told him to just let him go. He bursted out in the Risen Star for what at the time I thought was the most impressive race coming into the Kentucky Derby. But I also knew it was early, and there's a lot of racing to be done as we've seen since then. Unfortunately, he came up with an ankle injury. I know something about ankle injuries. They're tough to get over. Once they set in, you can't just kind of run on them, and they really hinder your ability to perform. So he definitely needed to recover from that ankle injury, and he's back. He came back in the Iowa Derby. Um, Almost ran an identical race. Now it was a slight difference there, but when I talk about identical, he came out in both of those races 46-4, 46-3 in the Iowa Derby, 110-4 in 3 quarters in both of them. and that's what I want to say about running up front. If you want to steal the race, as some people say, you want to get loose, like juvenile. You want to break free, as some people say. If you want to be able to do all this stuff, you got to be able to thread that needle between where you're going to break out from the pack and where you are going to get too tired. He's hit it. That sweet spot is in the 46-second range. Some horses, yeah, they do it with 47 based on the competition, and some of them, yeah, they get it done. Like a Justify going 45. 46 is where you want to be. He did the 46 and 4, 46 and 3. If he runs that same race, he's going to be tough to beat, even going the mile and a quarter. I think he's bred well enough to get there with Giants Causeway and Bernardini. Now, not only is he a cousin to Sovereignty, I think that had this race, he'd run in the Derby. Let's say he'd been healthy for the Kentucky Derby. He probably would have been favored over Sovereignty. I think he would have been the second favorite behind Journalism, because the betting public would have seen that amazing race he ran off the Risen Star, and people love to see horses that win big races. He won both those races by 9, the Risen Star and the Iowa. So being that this is the Graveyard of Champions, Sovereignty, we'll get to Sovereignty later. I think he would have been the favorite, though. Sovereignty may be vulnerable in this one. I'll just say for now, to be to the edge of magnitude, because that would give him the ability to start. They definitely don't want to try to rate this horse. Ben Curtis, he's got everything to gain in this one. Junior Alvarado, I don't want to say he's going to be relaxed, but it's the pressure's kind of off of him a little bit. But let's move on to the next horse. All right, now the number 2 is Bracket Buster. Horse is sired by Vacoma, who's out of Candy Ride. 20-1 on this one. He's got Luis Saez jumping aboard him, trained by Victoria Oliver. Now, what can we say about this horse? He's definitely faced the competition. Bracket Buster's not a duck. He's been beaten by Sovereignty, Journalism, Tis Tactic, Sandman, Gosker, and Goal Oriented, beaten by those horses twice. So he's definitely faced some competition. However, no luck. He's lost to all of those horses every single time he's faced them. Last time out in the Haskell, beaten by Journalism, Gosker, and Goal Oriented all at the same time there. Before that, he did have a win in the Pegasus, the prep race Pegasus, of course, at Monmouth for the Haskell. I gave him a 92 speed figure on that one. Before that, he was in a optional claimer at Churchill Downs on Derby Day. That was the race that Goal Oriented won, the one that kind of put Goal Oriented on the map. He got beat by 12 lengths by Goal Oriented on that day, with Goal Oriented looking a little green. His race before that was the Lexington, beaten by Gosker there. Now, he took the lead in that one. That's the only time he ever took the lead. Took the lead with a 47. Ended up running second to Gosker. And then before that, he ran in the Street Sense, 5th in that one, where he was beaten by the eventual Derby winner Sovereignty, along with his Tactic and Sandman. So he's faced that competition, but when you look at him going forward, his Street Sense beaten, went to the Lexington, he took it down a notch, still ran second. Took him down to an optional claimer, got beat 7th place in that one. So then they take him to the Pegasus. Weaker field, gets a win, but then back in the Haskell, okay, he's back in form a little bit better, that he ran 4th. Still 8 lengths behind Journalism, though. I don't really have him as a front runner. He is kind of a front runner, but when I handicap these things, let me let you in a little handicap and secret that I use at least. Horse isn't really a front runner unless he's taken the lead twice. You still mark the ones that took a lead once, but you don't classify them as the same as the ones that have taken the lead twice or more. The ones that have taken the lead twice or more are more likely to go for it, where the other ones you will see will give it up, especially when you look at their opening half mile. That's the secret there. And like I said, that opening half mile on 4, don't think he's going to push Magnitude. That will give him a good stalking position on Magnitude. The thing is, the horse is going to have to drastically improve from this 92 figure I got. I got Magnitude having run, pardon me, a 109 in his Risen Star, running a 104 in that Iowa Derby, both by 9 lengths. Big wins, got loose, so that means the horse probably has more in the tank. Bracket Buster ran the 92 in the Pegasus, wasn't able to do much more against the other competition, so he's definitely going to need to step it up in this one. Number 3, Strategic Focus. Now, 6-1 in the morning odds. He's probably not going to be 6-1. Every YouTuber out there is saying they love Sovereignty, they're picking Sovereignty, they're going to play Strategic Focus in a way to try to beat him, and they don't think Magnitude can beat him because he's 2-1. They don't like the price, so instead of going with Magnitude to beat him, they're looking for, if you're going to beat him, go with Strategic Focus because of the price. However, the price doesn't run the races. I mean, the horses are priced accordingly. All right. At 6-1 against a 1-9, it's kind of far back there. I think he's going to get some money because people want to try to beat a 1-9 favorite. That's just human nature, and that's why I kind of don't like this horse. It's just because it's not that I don't like the horse. Nice horse. All right, sired by Gunrunner out of Candy Ride. Mother's father's Curlin. Now, his mother's got a weird name, Curlin's Mistress. Curlin's Mistress? They named his daughter his mistress. That's just kind of weird to me. Why would you name Curlin's daughter Curlin's mistress? But excellent breeding out of this Candy Ride Curlin horse here. They're putting the blinkers on, which is another thing I don't like. Now, I heard Trifecta and a little bit extra, if you want to check out her channel. She does very interesting angles. A lot of those things about horse racing, a lot of us think, I wonder what that is, and I don't have the time to figure out those stats, though. She does all that. She figures out those weird angles and, measures in the history tendencies, and useful channel. Check her out. Trifecta and a little bit extra. Now, one angle she did throw out there is that Chad Brown was, I think, 36% with blinkers on going into dirt routes. Maybe too specific. It's not something I look at and say, ooh, he's got blinkers on, I'm going to bet on this horse. If anything, it kind of scares me away from him. Now, Flavian Pratt's riding him. Horse did not win his 2 races with Flavian Pratt. They switched to Flavian Pratt. They had Dylan Davis. I'm no Dylan Davis fan, but as people know, I'm not really a fan of Flavian Pratt either. I think Flavian Pratt's a better jockey, though, but not always. Sometimes if a horse is just winning with that guy, you got to leave that guy on him. Kind of like I said with Ben Curtis. Horses are animals just like people. And people, just like any animals, they have chemistry. When you have 2 people that have chemistry together, they just click right away, and everyone just knows it, and you can just tell. And it happens in horse racing, and one of the easiest things you can do in horse racing is to recognize when your horse and your jockey have that chemistry. And when they switch them, like when you took Junior Alvarado off of Sovereignty. I knew he was going to lose. I had that race, and I bet the straight exacta. I knew he was going to lose because I just knew it. I saw him coming, and you knew he was a big, strong horse. But I think Manny Franco's just not going to get. He's not that kind of guy to where he's just going to be able to get somebody else's horse to go. And it proved out. He ran second in there. So they switched it to Flavian Pratt. Pratt ran third in the Curlin. Didn't go back to Davies. Pratt's back on him. Chad Brown's a smart guy. Pratt's a good jockey. I would have gone with Davis. Davis gets 2 wins. The horse has only run 3 races. 3 races, 2 wins, 1 third place. The 1 third place was with Pratt. I would have gone back. The same thing I would have done. I mean, they did it with Sierra Leone, too. I would have gone back to Tyler Gaffleone. Pratt eventually got the win on him. But Hey, that's a little jockey politics, a little jockey chess for you. But going back to Pratt, I don't really like that. I would rather see Davis on him, being that Davis got the win, even though I think Pratt's a better jockey. Um, 3 either way. I mean, the DQ, you got to take that as well when you handicap a race. But I give him the 109, that mile and an eighth, and a 148.1. That's what you want to see. That is what you want to see. That's what I'm talking about. He's up there definitely in the class of these horses to run with him. However, he came out here in the Curlin, ran third, lost to Chancellor McPatrick. Chancellor McPatrick, once again, he was a nice horse. I think he probably was a Derby favorite at some point doing it as a 2-year-old. But he's proven that he's more of a miler, maybe a 9 furlonger at best. Some say he didn't have the Lasix, so the Lasix has hurt him, and this time he's going without Lasix again, so he'll be better without it, or maybe he needs the Lasix. Blah 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 blah. I don't like to over handicap the small things. I call it you're just splitting hairs. I can't put that much into it. What I see is a horse that looked great, had two really good races. They switched the jockey. They put a good jockey on him. He ran third behind what is on paper an inferior horse. He's better than Chancellor McPatrick on paper. Now, will he shake that off and get it together here? Maybe, but he's facing Sovereignty, who's the leader to be the horse of the year right now, and people are already starting to make conversations past the wire for another channel I recommend checking out. Past the wire, they got some good info there too. But they're having the conversation: is Sovereignty as good as Journalism or American Pharaoh? Uh, because he won 2 legs of the Triple Crown and didn't run in the third. Um, and then they say, Journalism would have been a Triple Crown winner if it wasn't for Sovereignty. So if Journalism is pretty much a Triple Crown winner, then Sovereignty's even better. Is Sovereignty the best horse ever? I don't know. Brings up the good competition with people. American Pharaoh, a lot of people thought he's better than Justify. Justify undefeated. Didn't run as a 2-year-old. Set unbelievable fractions. Handled the weather regardless. A lot of people could say, yeah, George Soros horse. Hey, I don't like George Soros, but he's been successful in a lot of his ventures, including Justify. So back to Sovereignty. Is he really that good? Strategic focus. Does he belong in that conversation with the Hall of Fame horse like that? I think we're getting way ahead of ourselves with those kinds of conversations. Even though strategic focus, he's bred with Hall of Fame breeding. Gunrunner, Candy Ride, Curlin. It's like book him, right? I mean, he's got better breeding than Baeza, or just as good at breeding as Baeza, I say. But he's got to get it done on the track. Lightly raced, got to get it done. Could he break out? Yeah, but the reason I don't really like him is I think it's going to go to Pratt's head a little bit that he's going to be able to beat Sovereignty. And people are saying, well, if anybody's going to beat him, it's going to be you. He's going to be thinking that. And Pratt likes to go early. He's done it more than once. I think he's probably going to end up getting caught up here because he's going to have to try to spy 2 horses. He's going to try to spy. I don't know, but if you want to take a shot, go for it. I just don't think the money's really going to be worth it on this one. I think another one is probably going to be a nice horse, but it's going to be a tough race for him to win, even though it's only 5 horses in it. Number 4, Sovereignty. Out of Into Mischief, which is now in the conversation for, is he the best sire in the history of horse racing? I don't know. Maybe he went from being questionable to now all he does is produce Derby winners. All right. Out of Harlan's Holiday, Mother's Father's Bernardini, who was an AP Indy horse, who I think was the best bred horse in history. I'm looking for another AP Indy of these days. There's a few out there. I think Mystic Guide was in that conversation. But Sovereignty, very well bred, very well accomplished. Hasn't lost since the Florida Derby, where he didn't have his jockey, Junior Alvarado. Trained by Bill Mott, 2 to 5 in the morning odds. He could go off anywhere as low to 1 to 9. The highest I see him going off is even money, and that's only if people just get so caught up on the fact that they just want to throw big money on trying to beat him. And that is quite possible with the way people bet these days. A lot of people would, just because it's a big race and there's a lot of money in it, Why not? It's worth trying to beat horses a lot of times, like because betting a horse at 1 to 9 is like silly. I don't know to see how horses get to 1 to 9, but they do. Um, I guess people are trying to wash some drug money or something to put it on a 1 to 9. But anyway, they still get money. He could go down that low. Um, 8 lifetime starts, 5 wins, 2 second place runs. His best lifetime figure, I gave him in that Belmont, the mile and a quarter Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, where I gave 117, best time on the board. Um, Last out, he ran in the Jim Dandy, which let's not get to the Jim Dandy. Let's go forward with this horse on this one here. Let's go back to the Street Sense. The horse, the time where a lot of people said that's where they picked him to win the Derby when he won that at the Churchill Downs. I give him a 96 there. He runs in the Fountain of Youth down at Gulfstream. Give him a 100 there. Jockey gets injured, runs second with Manny Franco aboard behind to Tappan Street, yeah. 103, I give him in that one. Comes out, gets his jockey back for the Kentucky Derby, going back to that track he likes, Churchill Downs, my favorite track, my home track. Bust out a 109 in that Kentucky Derby that everybody remembers. That was a great race. With the instant classic because of journalism's hype and journalism's a great horse, you know. Gets it together again, running that mile and a quarter Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, 117. Journalism comes back after having won the Preakness and the Thriller. He gets it back together, beats Journalism again in a race you can't take anything away from Journalism because he did run in all 3 red legs of that Triple Crown after Sovereignty having taken a break. Bill Mott kind of likes to do that. He took a little break, comes in and runs him in the Jim Dandy. You can imagine he told him in the Jim Dandy, don't kill the horse, just get the win. Now, that is what most people are going to say is the reason why he ran what I gave him a 103. Opening half in that New Yorkitis, 48-2. 3/4, 112-2. They run that 9 furlongs and 149-2. Sovereignty got it done in a very unimpressive, unfashionable, lackadaisical. Where's a lackadaisical? I don't know. You guys look that up. Effort in the Jim Dandy. He got the win. Definitely didn't kill the horse, but I don't like that. To me, he looked like those NFL teams that rest their starters in the final week going into the playoffs, but they don't have a bye. And they get flat, sometimes with the bye. You rest your starters, guys just start kind of taking time off, they're out of rhythm. Rhythm, momentum, all very real. I don't care what Arian Foster says. If he learned to pay attention to momentum, he'd be in the Hall of Fame as an NFL player. Your momentum and your rhythm definitely have to be paid attention to, and I'm just not sure Sovereignty's in rhythm. Graveyard of Champions. Why do they say that? There's a lot of reasons I think that the horse racing guys have chosen to make this a graveyard. It creates the conditions to get more competition, and you also have conditions of overconfidence in such a tough situation where you're facing the best jockeys. I mean, the only other time these top jockeys get together like this is at Gulfstream and at Keeneland. So it's always a top crop of jockeys you're facing at Saratoga. The jockey, Junior Alvarado, he was not a top tier jockey. Now he pretty much is a top tier jockey. Now I don't necessarily want to bet him there. I'm not going to do that just yet. But the thing is, since he got the Derby win, and now that he got the mile and a quarter Belmont at Saratoga win, he's going to get better mounts. I've already noticed him getting better mounts. And a guy like this, when he's getting better mounts and he's got the energy, he was talking about he really thought his career was pretty much over. He's like, yeah, it's not going to happen at this point. And then he won the Kentucky Derby, and he had that surreal feeling. Like, even for a couple of weeks, he's like, Did I really? Well, hey, I won the Kentucky. I'm a Kentucky Derby winner. Whoa. I mean, I can imagine what that must feel like. Um, However, after he won that mile and a quarter Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, now the money's really coming in. When you got that kind of money coming in, your lifestyle changes. For one, all your family and friends start trying to spend your money. Um, you start trying to be way too generous to people and trying to take care of things that you probably shouldn't, and you probably should give out probably 90% less than you do. Um, but people don't budget their giving any better than they budget their spending. Um, so guys like that, like Junior Alvarado, they get caught up in these situations, and life isn't horse racing anymore. It's caught up in buying overpriced houses and overpriced cars. And I'm not saying Junior Alvarado necessarily did that, but when I look back in the history of my following sports, regardless of where these guys come from, a lot of them, even middle class dudes, blew a lot of money, or they spent money on what they thought was a smart investment, but it's really just middle class waste. I mean, you're really just giving the money to financial investors and a bunch of middlemen that stole your money in the long run. Carson Palmer's the only guy I can really remember that just sat on a ton of cash. Uh, Even Kurt Schilling, he sat on a ton of cash and then opened a software. Talking about a Hall of Fame guy blowing all that money, and then he thinks he's such a genius because he was a genius pitcher. Kurt Schilling might have been the smartest pitcher ever, but how are we talking about Kurt Schilling in a horse racing video? Anyway, he might have been the smartest pitcher ever, but not at all smart in business, especially software. He got eaten alive. Software, computer business is not for the faint of heart, not for people that like to throw money around, because it will take your money. Ask anybody in Silicon Valley. All right. Um, Betting on software companies, yeah, you got to look for a Bezos. You got to bet on a Bill Gates. You got to bet on a Steve Jobs. You got to bet on that guy is going to get it done. Just like in horse racing, when you're betting on uh, your jockey and your trainer. That's why people like your Todd Pletchers and your Bob Bafferts. Um, and a guy like Bill Mott, he's good, but he's not in that range of the other guys. And I don't know if he's going to do enough to get it done here. He's got everything he needs to win the Travers. He's never won it before. But will he be overconfident? Is he just like, well, we're just going to work the horse? I mean, that's what Bill Mott kind of does. He does his thing. He's got his formula. It works well enough for him to be successful. And he's not going to change. And I think sometimes, I mean, that's what a guy like Pletcher and Baffert, especially, they're going to do. I'm going to enter 2, 3 horses. I'm going to throw a rabbit. I'm going to try to box this guy in. Those guys are cutthroat. In the long run, Pletcher and Baffert are cutthroat. Uh, some say to the point of being unethical, but hey, when you get into sports, you're allowed to make a certain amount of fouls. Like I'm a basketball player, and my motto is, hey, I got 5 fouls. I got 4 fouls to give, and then one, and after the fifth one, then they throw me out. So I'm allowed to foul 4 times. So guys like that are going to push the limit, and everyone that's successful that gets these things, that they always push those limits. I mean, that could, if you're going to win, I mean, just look at Dale Jr. You got to intimidate. You got to push the limits on the other guy, and a lot of times, just pushing the limits is going to make the other guy get out of the way. Bill Mott's not that kind of guy. I don't know if Junior Alvarado's that kind of guy. He loves this horse. He's got really good rapport with this horse. But I don't know, is the money, is the 1 to 9. He's got no journalism to prove it against this time. The Jim Dandy, yeah, we got to beat by, yeah, we got to prove that we're not a flop. But is this going to feel too automatic? Is he going to have in the back of his head stuck that, hey, it's okay if I lose this race? Awesome again lost here. Secretariat lost here. American Pharaoh lost here. Affirmed, beaten by Alidar in the Travers. It's okay if I lose this race. Is that in the back of his head? I don't know. We'll see on Saturday. The number 5, McAfee. out of cloud computing. That's a McLean's music horse. Mother's father's Uncle Mo, Cyrus software. John McAfee, really good, really smart, conspiracy theorist type guy. Too much to an extent. Uh, Went off the deep end, in my opinion, but he's one of those kind of geniuses that took it too far. Anyway, this horse is named after him. 20 to 1 in the morning odds, ridden by Johnny V. Now, you know when Johnny Velasquez is ridden by a horse, uh, riding a horse, that's 20 to 1, and it's a 5 field horse. There's got to be something up with the other horses in this race, and that's what it is. He's running against Sovereignty. So, who's back in the game? Good workouts, I got to say, coming for McAfee, leading up to his last race in the West Virginia Derby. Had a couple of 46s, laid down with a 38-3 furlong, so I was like, yeah, he's going to pop, but no. He didn't pop, beaten by Chunk of Gold, who Chunk of Gold stole it. Chunk of Gold is a bona fide closer, and he went wire to wire in that one. So 150-4 didn't really do much in my that's not that impressive running behind Chunk of Gold, who he should have blown past in that situation. Second, 4 lengths off in that. His race before that was the Ohio Derby. Third place in that one, 4 lengths off, behind Moplex and Chunk of Gold again. Another 150 there. He ran in the Peter Pan. Now, that's the race where it looks like he was going to start getting things together, I thought. Before that, he was 5th in the Wood, 5th in the Gotham. But the Peter Pan looked like, this is the time for the horse to make that jump, that mid-season jump, if you will. He ran against Hill Road there. Tight race between Hill Road and Captain Cook. Good race to watch. Good horse race to watch. If you guys want to go check out that Peter Pan from this year. But McAfee just seems to be capped. He wants to be seen to be capped at being like a miler. And maybe, he's that mid-ranger. I don't really think a 1.25 miles really suits him. He's tough. He seems he can hang out, so maybe he can hang out, hit the board somewhere, get a little cash. But man, I just don't think McAfee. I don't even think he's as good as these other horses. Not as good as Chunk of Gold, Moplex. Not as good as Hill Road. Not as good as Chancellor McPatrick. I don't think he's as good as Oscar. I don't think he's as good as Baeza. But he's up here against Sovereignty. Strategic Focus, I think he's not as good as Strategic Focus. It's based on Strategic Focus, the first race he ran. He's probably about as good as Bracket Buster. Maybe in there with Bracket Buster. Not as good as Magnitude, in my opinion. But he's out there. He's got Johnny B, and Johnny B is going to try to hit the board. He's not going to push the horse. He's going to give the horse a good ride and see where he ends up. Now, pace makes the race. Magnitude going to get the lead, as pretty much everyone knows, unless someone tries to steal it. Like I was just talking about in that West Virginia Derby. We saw that from Chunk of Gold. Magnitude's probably going to get the lead in this one. Ben Curtis. This is his race to lose, in my opinion. What? What did you say? What, Nate? You're talking about this is Ben Curtis' race to lose. I think it's Sovereignty. You seen Sovereignty in this race? You seen that horse run me? You crazy? Maybe. But Sovereignty has a lot working against him, like I just said. Magnitude, he's the only real front runner in this race. Hasn't gone the distance, but Ben Curtis has shown that he knows how to get loose. 46. He's got to hit that 46-2, 46-3. Put on some tool before the race, baby. Put on some 46-2 and get it going. And if he hits that 46-2 and he hits that 110-4, I think he could be gone. Magnitude's got to get the lead. Bracket Buster on paper is going to ride behind him. A 47-second and the only time he took the lead, he's not going to that's not going to be challenging enough to Magnitude. In order to press him, he's got to be closer. Strategically focusing on where he's going to make this horse run. And I already said, I think Pratt's probably going to move a bit too early because you want to try to get the jump on Sovereignty, who will be sitting behind him with McAfee. When they go, Bracket Buster is going to get challenged by Strategic Focus, I think. They're both going to make that move, but Magnitude, by the time they hit that 3/4 mark, if he hits that 110-4, they're going to have to get going to get there. So by the time they come around that corner, Bracket Buster's going to be out of gas. Strategic Focus is going to start probably having to say, I'm chasing him, but I'm not getting there fast enough. And Sovereignty's barreling down behind. Actually, he's going to be looking this way. Sovereignty's barreling down behind me, and that's not going to be good. He's going to be tempted to get going a little bit more. I think, and I'm counting on Ben Curtis. Yeah, I'm betting on Ben Curtis in this one with this here. Ben Curtis, he's got the feel with this horse. All he's got to do is run the same race. If he gets New Yorkitis, Sovereignty wins the race. But I'm thinking that Ben Curtis knows he's got nothing to lose, and trying to run a different race probably isn't going to help. So I think he's just going to come out and try to run the same race, get loose on him. Sovereignty's going to be barreling down behind Strategic Focus, like I said. McAfee's just going to be left out. Sovereignty's going to go. He's not going to be able to keep up with him. Sovereignty's going to roll past Strategic Focus, but he's not going to be able to get to Magnitude. Because, like I said, if Magnitude goes ahead and runs that race like he's run those last two, like he's trained to do, if he's just got to repeat that process. And a Sovereignty who, like, hey, I listened to Naira Betts. And one thing I like about Naira Betts is they really comp into the girl there. I forget her name. I think Kaylee Shapiro. I think is her name. She was, I guess, an exercise rider at some point, but she comments on things that you don't necessarily notice. She definitely notices the fitness of the horse, and she says that while Sovereignty and journalism definitely both very fit before the Preakness and or before the Derby and mile and a quarter Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, that Sovereignty was not in as good of shape in the Jim Dandy. Now, we'll see what kind of shape he comes out to in this one. But I didn't like the way he looked in the Jim Dandy. If you were looking at just betting these horses be using the very last race off past performances, there's no way he would be the favorite. And there's no way, if he was even the favorite, he'd be 1-9. He'd be a 3-1 favorite as the win in the Iowa Derby that you saw from Magnitude. Beat the clock, and so are the other horses, much like Goff. Now, granted, they can get in each other's way and bump each other and come up with a good strategy to get there, but you got to beat the clock. That's going to be the strategy, in my opinion, from Asmussen and from Ben Curtis, and that's what I think they're going to do. I've got Magnitude coming away with the win. Upset win over Sovereignty. Sovereignty, I think, much like in the Florida Derby, will run past these other horses and get a respectable looking second place. Strategic Focus, I think he is a top horse right in the conversation with these. Therefore, I think he will run a solid third. I think we're going to have Bracket Buster and McAfee running late. Bracket Buster I got last. McAfee I got running fourth because, like I said, Johnny B is going to give him a good ride and see where he lands, and I think it's going to be fourth. Bracket Buster, I think, will get too caught up in trying to run past these other horses and fall apart. Now, Strategic Focus, while he will get caught up in running, trying to get caught up in the run, hey, look at his horse, Gun Runner, Candy Ride, Curlin. I think he can take a little bit of that, but he gets passed by Sovereignty, runs third. So I'm taking Magnitude. I know that's not the popular choice. The people that do want to beat Sovereignty want to go with Strategic Focus. I think it's because of the price. I don't handicap with price. You can use the odds to handicap in lieu of a racing form if you know how to do that. We can get into that at different times, but you don't want to use that um, as a handicap. You could use it as a betting tool, but that's a different thing. Um, just saying you think that the horse is going to win more because the odds, I don't like that at all. If you want to say, hey, I just want to take a shot on the money, hey, I can see that. Uh, as always, let me know what you think in the comments section. I know I'm probably in the minority here, going with magnitude. But I think he can get loose and get away from him. And like I said, there's a lot of things I don't like about Sovereignty in this one. Uh, one of those being that his bandwagon is very, very full. And I'm a heavy believer in the bandwagon. And once a bandwagon gets full, it's weighed down. And sometimes that engine can't get past another bandwagon who is a little more lightweight. Magnitude's bandwagon is very light right now. Um, and I think that's going to work into the advantage of the jockey and the trainer. And I think Sovereignty's pressure, the bandwagon he's going to have, is going to get to him. So there I have it. As I said, let me know what you think in the comments section, as always. But I'm going Magnitude with the win. Sovereignty second. Strategic Focus third. McAfee fourth. 1, 4, 3,